Before I begin, I should note that this speech is pretty long, and usually I'm not one to believe that length matters, but it's the case in this situation. So, I hope you strap in to the emotional roller coaster we're all about to take, so you bear with me. Good afternoon. Those of you that don't know me, why? It's a pretty small speech. My name is Jack Elliott, and you can follow me on Twitter at JackPElliott and on Instagram at PB_N_Jelliot. Just kidding, alright. Someone once told me that every great speech starts with a joke, and I just completely disagree. I wasn't kidding. All of you should really be following me on social media. It's simple. When I was deciding what to write this speech about, it was difficult. It had to be something worthy of all of your time, whichever way you decided to spend it. Either listening to me, Snapchatting, or falling asleep. I wanted a speech worthy of a quality Snapchat. And if you take one, might I recommend using a black and white filter, because that's going to make me look about 10% better looking. And I'm already mentioned in this speech, so if you did in real life, well, wouldn't that be ironic? Now, if you decide to rest your eyes during my talk, which I don't look down upon you if you do, unfortunately, I've been sitting in clear sight of Dr. Phillips in the entire year, so I haven't been #blessed with that opportunity. I wanted my speech to be calming enough to accommodate for you. I could have stuck with the theme this year and reiterate how students mostly here, we're all privileged and we take everything in life for granted, but I thought no, that's been done, that's been overdone. However, I will borrow one idea from Speaker's Pass. When this is over, I am giving you guys a little bit of homework. It's just one essay. I'm kidding, it's 2 essays. We're about 2 minutes in and 7 jokes deep, and if I'm being honest, when I initially set out to write this senior speech, I thought I wanted it to be completely serious. Now, seeing that just about every student in here has trouble taking me seriously, which is a #blessing and a curse, I thought maybe I should keep it lighthearted. As I take a turn to the more personal, I hope you can see past the humor and truly take something meaningful away from this, even if that is just a really good-looking Snapchat. I want to focus the better part of my speech on the idea of change. Living in Oklahoma, living in the Bible Belt, many of you probably have a negative connotation associated with the word change. It may bring about 8 years of disappointment, or maybe an image of a little Dalton, and probably thoughts of a man who likes to talk like this. That was my best Obama, if you're not done in politics. Despite all that, I hope that I can add to your sense of change, and for lack of a better word, change your perspective. For me, change has 2 main characteristics. First, change is inevitable. It's going to happen. Look at any time before right now, and I think the changes are pretty obvious. Secondly, you cannot control change. You cannot control yours or anyone else's circumstances. However, you can control how you react to them. I believe a person's reaction to change builds their character and integrity. Before I talk about change in the world and everything changes, there's no free will, let me just stop. I think it's pretty obvious that we can control tons of things in our lives. There are plenty of things you can control right now, for instance. Your posture. Are you sitting up straight so that everyone can see your great head of hair? Hopefully they don't see the pimple on the back of your neck. And I know there's definitely one person in here that does have a pimple on the back of their neck, and they're freaking out right now. Are you paying attention? Where are you looking? Hopefully, and if you're lucky, it's straight into my baby blue eyes. Talking to you. Now, seeing that I'm the one speaking, I have a few more liberties that I can control. Am I going to stand up tall and project my voice? We're going to slump over and talk directly to the microphone. I have no idea how annoying it is from up here. First, there are countless things I can control here. Simple things, like hitting a microphone. We've all seen plenty of speakers hit the mic accidentally, but I didn't want to run that risk, so why not do it on purpose? Something else that a lot of you may not understand right away. Something really powerful. Something really powerful that I can control up here. My ability to fake cry in this speech. In doing so, I just ran the risk of losing your trust as an audience, but because you may see this all as an act, but I was willing to risk that because it just seemed really fun. Back to the idea of change and my second point, which is you can't control your circumstances, but you can control how you respond to them. Think about your gene pool. It's a bit of a personal subject in my life. I don't know how many of you know this, but I was a bit of a chubby kid. I was pleasantly plump, and actually it's not even that pleasant, it's mostly just plump. This was me subtly trying to cover my stomach, not only from beachgoers that day and from the camera, but from all of you here today. I don't know if you can see it in my face, but I wasn't particularly confident in my body. No, you can definitely see it in my face. I couldn't control the baby fat that I had with the number of chins I was dealt. Through fitness and exercise, I was able to overcome my pudgy body, and I think it worked out. Changes occur on a wide spectrum. From little everyday things like the weather or a haircut, to really big changes that happen maybe once in a lifetime. I believe most of you are aware of one of the biggest changes in my life. When my family moved from Pennsylvania to Oklahoma City, midway through my sophomore year. Contrary to popular belief, I'm not a Casady lifer, nor did I grow up in Nichols Hills. In fact, before I attended Casady, I attended public school my entire life. I grew up in a small, tight-knit community, much like the Casady community, 45 minutes north of Philadelphia. New Hope was everything I knew. My two brothers and I lived there our entire lives. We attended the same small school since kindergarten. We had grown up with our friends and their families, and the community as a whole was very close. I want to introduce you all to Ethan Toohey. Back in New Hope, he's a local hero. In 4th grade, Ethan was met with one of the toughest changes anyone, especially at that age, would ever have to face. He was diagnosed with a very rare cancer. Unfortunately, Ethan couldn't control his circumstances, as terrible as they were, but he could control how he handled them, keeping up his school studies, his courage, and his attitude. Ethan is one of the strongest and bravest kids I know. Instead of backing down to his cancer, he remained strong. Whether he was in class or at the hospital, he never turned in an assignment in late. Throughout school, from the 4th grade until my sophomore year before I moved, Ethan was in several of my classes, so you can tell he's a pretty bright kid. There were several periods, weeks or often months at a time, that Ethan wouldn't be in class or at school because he needed treatment. He needed to fight the cancer in the hospital. Towards the end of my freshman year, Ethan hadn't been in class for a while. It was around this time that my dad started job searching out of Pennsylvania. About a week or two from summer starting, I came home from school and I was sitting at the kitchen computer, as I often do. My dad had just come home from a trip out here visiting where he works today. Both my parents were in the kitchen, and I think the interaction went something along these lines. Did you tell him? No. Yeah, Dad. They offered me the job in Oklahoma City, and I'm going to take it. We're going to be moving out there pretty soon. Okay. These few sentences were full of life-changing information, and frankly, I wasn't ready for it. So I did what any strong, mature man would do. I got up, left the room, found our oldest cat because he would understand best, lay down on the floor next to him, and I cried. Garrett and I cuddled there for a significant amount of time. It must have been a Friday because I remember we went to graduation party that night. My brother Tim was a senior. When we got there, I was understandably upset because I was witnessing my brother experience what I expected to someday experience as well. He was surrounded by his friends, other seniors, most of them were lifers, and their families that we had all grown up with. He was finishing a chapter of his life alongside his buddies he'd excelled with, played sports with since kindergarten, laughed with and failed with. I was seeing something that I would no longer get to live through. Well, that was my thinking at the time. Now I can confidently say that I will be graduating next to some of my best friends. The next couple of months were a bit confusing. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't change the fact that we were moving as a family. What I could control was how I responded to the information. And honestly, it was a little bittersweet. On one hand, I tried to make the most of every moment of the next 6 months leading up to the move. I cherished the time I spent with my friends, in and out of school. Soccer in Pennsylvania was played in the fall, as it should be, and it was the cool sport. I realized that my sophomore soccer season was the last time that I would play alongside my best friends, many of whom are like brothers, the ones I've played beside my whole life, and it would be the last time I represented our school on the field since 7th grade. On the other hand, there were many silent nights spent at our dinner table. My two brothers were in college, so they weren't home, and my dad started working out here that summer, so it was just me and my mom in a very spacious house. My attitude toward the move was pretty poor. I would reiterate how I didn't want to go, how it wasn't fair. Unfortunately, I often reacted to my circumstances, frankly, like a baby. This was me about 6 months before the move. This was, I think, just when summer started, and this is 3 months out. It's pretty obvious that I was trying to run away from my troubles, physically and emotionally at the time. And this is about 2 weeks before we came out here, and it's sad, but I was eating and drinking my troubles away. As you can see, I was acting quite childish. I did eventually come to terms with my new life. I accepted that I would have to start fresh and be a new kid for the first time in about 10 years. About a month into school my sophomore year, I was in full swing of things. School and friends and soccer. One day my mom picked me up from practice, because in Pennsylvania, you drive at 16 and a half, not at 16. I know, it's crazy. I was in the car and we were driving home. My mom asked me if I knew how Ethan was doing, and I did. He hadn't been to school recently. She told me that he wasn't doing well. He was getting pretty sick again. She asked me to make him a card when I got home, because I had sent Ethan cards since 4th grade. Not super frequently, but it's just something nice to receive when you're in a hospital at any age. When I got home that day, I picked the best card, drew some funny pictures on the left-hand side, and I wrote to Ethan. I told him what an inspiration he was to everyone, how brave he was, and that he was the strongest kid I knew. About a week or so later, I was on Facebook one night, because Facebook was still in its glory days in my school. You hadn't yet made the switch to Twitter, or Yik Yak for that matter. I saw myself, along with the rest of the school, had received an event request, which was a pretty big deal. The page said that Ethan wasn't feeling too well, and to show our support, we would wear green to school the following day. Just like pink is synonymous with breast cancer, green is synonymous with Ethan. Before I went upstairs to bed, it was obvious that everyone would be wearing green the following day. After I went upstairs, I got undressed because I like to sleep in my boxers. I brushed my teeth because I'm a hygienic guy, and I went through my drawers and I picked out my only green shirt. I placed it on the ground as to not forget in the morning, and then I crawled into bed. I lay there several minutes. My mind was racing. I couldn't fall asleep, so I got up and I kneeled beside my bed. Now, I'm not a religious person by any means. In fact, I'm quite the opposite, but that night I figured I was better safe than sorry. I closed my eyes and I prayed. I prayed to something greater than myself, whatever that may be. I didn't care. I wanted Ethan to be strong, to keep fighting as he always had. Before long, I was back in bed, and I quickly fell asleep. That morning, when my mom dropped me off at school, which was honestly the coolest way to get around that day, that's why I shattered my kneecap this year so I can do it again. I walked in the front doors, and I instantly saw a sea of green. Everyone in the school was wearing green, supporting our friend. Later that day, I was sitting in history class. It was the type of class that everyone would kind of talk, quietly, chatting, yet we still all somehow had A's. The phone rang, and our teacher answered the call. The room was silent in anticipation. Ethan Toohey died September 14, 2011. He was 15. Later that week, a memorial service was held. The whole community gave their condolences to the Toohey family. I remember looking around and seeing my friends, peers, and adults crying, yet I was not. I wanted to cry. I felt that I wasn't mourning correctly, or like I was a bad friend. Finally, I was next up to see the family. I walked over quietly, not sure exactly what to say other than, I'm sorry. Mrs. Toohey, she's a great woman, she's very strong, broke the silence and she said hello to me. She told me Ethan had received my card, and that she had read it to him and that he heard it. She made sure I knew Ethan had heard my card, and immediately I broke down into tears and I hugged her. I'd like to leave you with the idea that even though changes in your life seem drastic at the time, and trust me, there will be many changes, know that they're not up to you. Rather, your response to them is, and it tells a great deal about who you are. Will you choose to cherish every moment, accept your fate, and live for today? I hope so. Because remember, not everyone still has that chance. To leave on a happy note, I just want to mention that there are no yak announcements today, so thank you.